everyone. If you're wondering why I'm wearing the same shirt and have the same hairdo as my last video, it's because I have another review to film, and that's An Affair of Poisons by Addie Thorley. So I read this one coming back to London because I went home for a little bit in December, and I just totally flew through this. Okay, so like I said, I found this one super interesting and I was totally drawn into it the moment I started reading, and I think I finished it like the very next day or something because I just could not put it down. So this really just starts off running and it just never lets up. You're constantly on the edge of your seat and feeling like you can't even take a breath because there's just like action, 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 action. You never really settle down for any amount of time, and I actually really liked that. Normally I like when books kind of settle a little bit more, but I felt for this one it just felt right. Like there wasn't any need for the characters to kind of, waiting for action to happen. It just happened anyway. Basically, we're introduced to the main character, Mira, right from the very beginning. She works for her mother in a alchemy shop thing in France, and her mother tells her, you need to make this poison for this man that we're gonna kill, and Mira's like, cool, I guess I'll do that. But then they end up poisoning the King of France, who was King Louis the 14th, I think? The Sun King. Let's just put it that way. So they end up poisoning him instead because they're gonna take over the royalty and the government and all that stuff. Her mother works for this thing called the Shadow Society. She's like the head of it. The royal family is just thrown into exile, so they have to go literally underground to go into hiding, and we are introduced then to our other main character, who is Joss. I'm gonna say Joss. It's Josse. French names, I can't pronounce them. Joss. Anyway, both of them were really compelling characters. I actually liked Mira's perspective a little bit more. I thought she was just a little bit more interesting because she had this ability to brew poisons, and like the alchemy and everything was really interesting, whereas Joss was just this like typical bastard son of a king, and I was like, okay, I feel like this has kind of been done before, and like his struggles and stuff, I just didn't really care about it because I figured he'd figure it out by the end. But Mira was very interesting because I didn't know where her character arc was gonna go, so I was just really interested in her perspective since the book switches from Mira to Joss and then back again. Though I do have to admit that Joss's stubbornness and fights with Mira led to some really good dialogue and interesting just plot points in general, so I did really like that. The other characters around them were also really interesting, so I liked them as well. I especially liked Joss's friends God, what is that accent? Desgras? I don't know. I really liked him. He was very witty, and anytime that Joss and Mira were interacting with each other, he was kind of there as like the sarcastic other viewpoint that everyone was, I think, was kind of thinking, but he was saying what other people didn't want to say, so I really enjoyed his character as well. He really grew on me as the sarcastic but fiercely loyal sidekick. So then we have Mira's mother, La Voisin. I probably am mispronouncing that as well, but she was a really compelling character too. Though I think the one thing about this was I would have liked to know a little bit more about her past, because we're given snippets of it here and there when Mira talks about her father who has died, but generally we're left kind of unsure about her mother. She also definitely fits into the stereotype of the like cunning and evil mistress, so I'm not sure if I like that or not. I'm still kind of just deciding. It seemed kind of Disney-ish to me, but I'm also glad we got to see her through both Mira and Joss's perspectives, because I think if it had just been through Mira's, we would have been totally, blindsided by her hatred and everything. But then we get Joss's side, which also has a lot of hatred, but he's coming to it through an outsider perspective. I do think that, I know this is an arc, but I think some of the writing needs a little bit of a fix, because I read the word squeal at the beginning of the book like 6 times in 20 pages or something. Like, it was a lot. So there are just a couple writing things that I hope get changed before the final copy comes out February 26th, but otherwise the writing was really good. So overall, it was an interesting book that was a mix of fantasy and history, which I always really like, and I really enjoyed that part of the story. I also liked at the very end that the author had a note where they kind of talked about the history parts where she was describing what was real and what wasn't, and the way that she described La Voisin and what part she had during King Louis I think it's the 14th, I'm not 100% sure on that, what part she played during that historical period. This is also a great read for me personally because I'm going to France this summer with my boyfriend and his family, so reading this really got me into it because they talk about the Louvre and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see all these places in person. So if you've ever been to France or anything like that, then you'll probably really enjoy this as well. But overall, I really enjoyed this one. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, really interesting history and fantasy. If you're into both of those things, definitely pick this up when it comes out at the end of February. And thank you so much to the publisher for sending me a copy of this. At first, when I emailed them, I wasn't sure if they were going to, but then they surprised me with this package and I was so over the moon about it. So thank you very much to Page Street Publishing. All that being said, I hope you enjoyed this review. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, you know, all that good stuff. You can find me down in the links below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye! Is this on? Yes, it is. And then the royal family is kind of... Jesus Christ. Ow!